If you're a beginner or an intermediate guitar player and you're looking for a great instrument that's not going to break the bank, something you can rely on, something you can use every day and maybe even take out on stage with you, the good news is affordable guitars that play well outside of their price are readily available these days. In this video, we're going to check out just one of those. This is from the Magneto Guitars U1 series. This is the Sonnet Modern US-2300. So Magneto Guitars have existed for a short while in the guitar industry. They're still a relatively new-ish brand, but they have been on the map for the last couple of years. Now this guitar is from their U1 series, so it's one of their more affordable models. So if you don't know anything about Magneto Guitars, they kind of came onto the market really doing very high-end custom shop stuff. And the guy behind this used to work for Levinson Blade, who are also another really well-respected very high-end custom guitar builder that did dabble in some more affordable production models. So this thing, the Sonnet Classic US-1300, is from their U1 series. Now in the UK, these retail for just under £380. So it's a very, very affordable instrument. So before we check the specs out of this thing, I just want to let you guys know that Magneto are not paying me for this video, but they have given me this guitar for the purpose of making this video. All the thoughts and opinions you're going to hear in the video, as always, are my own. So as I said at the start of the video, affordable guitars that really pack a punch are really easy to come by these days. And that's really the good thing for guitar players that are just starting out, or guitar players that are kind of looking for their first serious instrument. These days, you can get something like this, £350, that is more or less gig ready. Now, when I started playing guitar just over 20 years ago, that was not the case. If you wanted a really good instrument, you did need to spend closer to the £500 to £600 margin, because anything that was kind of around the £300 and down mark really was considered entry-level and very, very beginner-centric. These days, that's completely flipped on its head. Brands like Magneto are kind of fitting into that category nicely, and obviously we've got brands like Harley Benton and even Squire and Epiphone all filling this niche of guitars that are great instruments for not a lot of money. So before we dig into the specs, I just want to let you guys know I did have to do some work on this guitar in order to get it playable for this video. So when I got this out the box, the neck had not been adjusted correctly, so there was a slight back bow, which meant all the notes on the high E string, when you bend them, were completely choked out. The strings that this thing came with were pretty bad. They were really rough feeling, so I got rid of those straight away. So what I have done to this thing before making this video is give it a brand new set of Ernie Ball 10 to 48 Ultra Slinkies, I have adjusted the truss rod so the neck relief is correct. I've adjusted the action a little bit as well. The 17th fret is still completely dead when I bend it. There is a high fret up there, which I've checked out with a fret rocker, but I didn't have time to give it a fret dress before making a video. All the other dead frets were solved by doing the truss rod adjustment. So obviously, it's a £350 guitar. We're not going to get perfect setups out the box, so keep that in mind if you do get your hands on one of these. You may need to tweak it a little bit to suit your needs and to get it over the line. Aside from those minor issues though, this thing is a great guitar. Now, £380, you get a lot of guitar for the money. So I did have to do a little bit of work on it, like I said, but you can kind of expect to do that with any guitar in that price range. So let's dive into some specs on this thing. So this guitar is available in 4 different colors. This one is known as See-Through Quilt Red. Now on the close-up there, you can see this has a really nice kind of very quilty flame top. This, I believe, is just a veneer on top of a basswood body. So we've got a 2-piece basswood body here. There's a nice neck recess there, which we'll check out more in a moment. And then this here has been overlaid on the top. You'll notice it doesn't go right up to the edges, which kind of gives the impression of binding as well. Kind of a nice touch. It's quite striking to look at, and that is a really nice flamey, quilty top. Whether or not that is a real top or a veneer, I don't know, but I'm going to assume in this price range that it's going to be a veneer. Neck-wise, we've got a hard rock maple neck, which has a satin poly finish on it. The body has a regular poly finish, so it's very, very glossy, but we've got a satin poly on the neck, an East Indian rosewood fingerboard, and the fingerboard is a 12-inch radius as well, so it's quite flat, kind of feels very Les Paul-y, but that is set on a 25.5-inch scale length, so obviously if you're a Strat player, which you can see this is clearly influenced by, it does feel right at home. It's like a more modern kind of Strat. You've got that long scale length, but you've got that slightly flatter fretboard radius. Even great for players who are more into super Strats like Ibanez and Jackson style guitars. You've got that slightly more modern fretboard feel there, so it's great for faster playing. The neck itself is what they call a medium C shape. I would definitely say it's medium. It's not super thin, but it's not too thick. It's quite a nice size in the hand. It's nice if you're used to playing, you know, more kind of chunky neck guitars. It doesn't feel like it's too skinny, but likewise, if you've got quite small hands, it's not going to feel like a baseball bat. The nut material on the website is listed as synthetic, which I'm going to take a stab in the dark and just say is plastic. And then we've got this really cool neck heel here that I was just talking about. That cutaway there, where it kind of recesses into the body, means it's really easy to get your hand right up to the top of the neck. Takes away a little bit of the bulk of the heel, but also the heel does have a slight forward tilt as well. You can't really see it that well on camera, but coupled with this little recess here and the forward tilt, it's got great upper fret access. On top of the body, one of my favorite features is this wooden pick guard. Now this is one of the things that Magneto do slightly differently, is that this is wood, which just kind of gives it a different look, I think. It's actually a very dark brown, even though I can see on the camera there it does look black. And the same one is on the back there. The rear cavity is also covered in the wooden cover. Electronics wise, this is a HSS style guitar. So we've got a Magneto humbucker in the bridge, and also a pair of Magneto single coils in the middle and neck. Single volume, single tone, and a 5-way switch, just like you'd expect from a typical Strat style. There is no coil split on this guitar, so the humbucker pickup is only a humbucker in this case. But you do get that full range of Stratty tones, minus the usual position 2, where we get the single bridge and single middle, and obviously you don't have a single coil on the bridge. Hardware-wise, we've got this vintage style tremolo. This is meant to come with a tremolo arm. This guitar didn't come with that. It does come with a gig bag, I should mention, and the tremolo arm would be included in that, but this one, for whatever reason, didn't have the tremolo arm in the case. But I don't mind that too much because I don't really use tremolos on Strats too much. I have guitars that are set up for that purpose. So this is actually kind of just functioning as a hardtail Strat right now. And then up at the headstock end, we've got a headstock shape that is slightly Stratty-ish, you know. It's not going to look too out of place on a stage. And Magneto's own U1 branded tuners. These are just their own in-house cast tuners. They feel pretty good. They've got quite a tight feel to them, so I don't think they're going to slip out too easily. So yeah, spec-wise, for 350 quid, this is a lot of guitar. So now I'm going to plug this thing in and we're going to hear some tones. Alright, so gear-wise, I've got the Magneto plugged into the Blackstar Studio 10 6L6 today, which is running clean. That is running via the 2 Notes Torpedo Captor X. And in front of the amp, I've got an overdrive pedal. I'm using the Wampler Gearbox, which is a Klon on one side and a Marshall in the Box style drive on the other side. I'm going to be using both of those through the video for different gain textures. Before we do that though, we're going to talk about the clean tone. So this is straight into the amp, completely clean. I'm going to play a bit and go through all 5 pickup positions, starting with the humbucker, ending with the neck. So to my ears, that has kind of the hallmarks of being stratty, but it doesn't sound like a Strat. So obviously we've got the kind of expected single coil sounds, but to me they're a little bit more top-endy. There's not as much of that kind of refined warmth in the low end that you would get from a typical Strat, but that's not exactly what Magneto were claiming to do here. This is obviously Strat inspired. So we do have to take that in mind when we hear tones from this thing. It's not trying to sound like a Strat, it's their own thing. So now I've got the Klon side of Gearbox on, so we're going to hear some crunch tones, starting with a bridge pickup. So it sounds great with a bit of crunch. The pickups handle that really well in all of the positions. I did find that the second position was a little bit quacky, kind of almost like a cocked wah type thing, but that's quite cool. It's a cool effect if you're looking for that kind of thing. Now we're going to try it with some higher gain stuff. So I've got the Marshall in a box side of the gearbox selected. I'm going to go back to the bridge pickup and work through all 5 positions. So there you go, there's the Magneto Guitars U1 Sonnet Modern 2300. This is a really, really impressive guitar considering the price that it sits in. Now, like I mentioned at the start of the video, there were a couple of issues with the setup of this thing straight from the box. That's my personal experience with this. You guys might not even have that problem at all. Now, I don't know where this guitar is made. I didn't mention that earlier on in the video. I'm going to assume that it's made in China based on the price range. But obviously, if anyone knows the correct answer to that, throw that down below in the comments. All in all, though, if you look past the minor setup problems that I did have, this is a great guitar. I mean, I honestly wish guitars were like this when I started playing, because this would have really benefited me instead of the time I had to spend on a really kind of subpar guitar when I started playing, you know, learning on a guitar with huge action and terrible setups. I really wish instruments like this were around 20 years ago for players like me. So if you're in the market right now for a great guitar that's not going to bust the bank as a beginner or an intermediate player, I mean, for this kind of price, it's almost silly not to get one. So I would actually trust this thing to take out on the road with me as well. And I probably will at some point. I'll actually take this out for some gigs and see how it handles being on stage. I do feel that this is a really trustworthy instrument. I do need to sort out that fret issue, which is on the 17th fret, because that's not great for gain, but I need to sort that out. And then I'll take this thing out and see how it handles some shows. But yeah, I'm really, really impressed with this. This is my first time checking out a Magneto, and I can see why these guys are doing so well. I mean, this is a great guitar for not a lot of money. So yeah, what do you guys think? Let me know down below in the comments what you think of Sonnet Modern. I think it sounds great. I think the single coils have a really kind of sparkly quality to them. A bit more sparkly than a typical Strat sound, but that humbucker kind of really brings some thump to the mix. And then obviously when we take some drive to this thing, it sounds fantastic. That bridge humbucker sounds like it can handle quite a lot. So you heard me play with a crunch and a slightly higher gain tone. I reckon you could probably go even heavier with this thing if you're that way inclined as well. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of this thing down below in the comments. If you're new here, please consider subscribing as well. And don't forget to hit that like button. Thank you guys for watching as always, and I'll see you very soon.